Good day, folks. That's right, you know what time it is. It's the time of the tofu-eating wokarati. Lol, just kidding. But seriously, though, the UK's political system is absolutely Oh, and on another note, it's time to talk about House of the Dragon. Welcome back to the Two Maesters podcast for Comics 101, part of the Pick Up the Mic network. Howdy, Josh. How's it going?
Good, thanks. As you mentioned before, the whole political system in the UK has just gone to basically. A bit slow there, but we'll get Jeffrey to beat that out. But yeah, it literally feels like it could be maybe like an old Game of Thrones episode where you literally have everyone resigning, constant people who aren't fit for their jobs, get a job, and then realize that they're terrible at it. So they end up having to then resign because they've said something or done something that has really messed up the economy or just messed up in general.
Exactly. It feels like our political system is very much like Game of Thrones, you're right?
Yeah.
We've had some pretty incompetent people in, and just the fact that, like, we're talking about who's going to ascend the throne to become Prime Minister. Well, also we had the monarch change as well.
Yeah.
Really good timing for House of the Dragon, almost plotting and scheming. Feels like, you know, what we're watching on TV kind of gives us a bit of an education about, well, a bit of an extreme example. It's not like the Conservatives go around slicing each other's heads off. Not yet, anyway. Who knows? We'll find out next episode. So, what did we think of episode 9?
I think it was like a really nice episode, especially we kind of thought that the king had died in episode 8, but then we just get it really affirmed to us in episode 9, especially at the beginning. And I think it was very clever the way that they did it, that everything was silent, especially when it started off. And it was like, how are they going to take this episode? Is it silent because everyone's at the funeral? Is it silent because they went to like the hall where they have their discussions, so where the council has their discussions, which was then empty. They went to the throne room, which was empty, and you then just saw this child running around. So I was first thinking, oh, has everyone left to go to the funeral? Mm-hmm. But then in fact, it's like, no, it's just quiet because it's at night. And then you see the boy just run to like the queen's handmaiden to basically tell her that, the king is dead. And I think it's just like the way that I think the episode's basically like how they managed that crisis. And then I was just watching it with my brother, and he was just like, yeah, in like times of succession, like someone going the crown from one person to the other, like in many cultures that literally no one would be allowed to leave until it was affirmed who next would be king. Because then like if someone knows about the news, they could then basically preempt something and do something like what they were trying to prevent Rhaenyra from doing. So like, for example, if Rhaenyra had found out, she would have then come to King's Landing before Aegon could have been crowned, and then basically stated her claim. So they basically did something very clever, which was corral everyone in the city, bring them into the sept and say, this is your new king. And I think it was very clever on their part that he was crowned before her. And I think it was also surprising to Alicent that literally the whole council, apart from one person, had been planning for this from the beginning. Like what? She's like, oh yeah, the king's final words was to allow Aegon to be Aegon should be king. And they're like, oh yeah, we thought that would happen. Now let's continue with the plan. And she's like, what?
What plan? I know. I think in the book, it's more that she was part of the plan from the start. Like, and there's a lot of things where George R. R. Martin says he's actually preferred the interpretation in the TV show because they've kind of filled in the gaps. And yeah, you do feel a little bit for Alicent, to be honest, because you know, when we were talking about last episode, like whose side would you be on? I'd definitely be on Rhaenyra's now, but I do feel for Alicent because she generally feels like she's doing it because her kids are going to. She thinks Rhaenyra's going to kill her kids, but then they kind of made up. Yeah. Last episode, despite her almost slitting Rhaenyra's wrists, I still can't get over how they made up from that. You know, but in this episode, for example, I was literally rewatching this as he walked in the studio. Otto Hightower was like talking with Alicent. Alicent's like, "I have Aegon now. I'm going to put him on the phone, but I want Sir Side Piece, Sir Kristen Cole, to sit to be
the head of the
King's Guard. Yeah. And she's like, he's like, we should kill. He was like kind of alluding that they should kill Rhaenyra, and she's like, Viserys wouldn't want his beloved daughter to be killed. We should at least spare her. You know, that's what he would have wanted. And he's like, is that what he would have wanted, or is that what her childhood friend would have wanted? Yeah. And I was like, damn, good point. Yeah. But she does. It's really weird because, you know, as you said previously, it's the people around them that have thrown them into this spotlight. Maybe Rhaenyra not so much because she wants to be queen, but Alicent's very much a product of the people around her. Even, you know, sense a bit of reluctance. So yeah, it's a pretty good episode. I think the previous episode was better, and the one before, like, just some amazing scenes there. But this one still pretty spot on. Like, are there any scenes that like really stood out to you?
I would say, like, for most people, like the scene at the end with when the dragon then comes from underground under the sept and basically causes mayhem, and then the queen that never was then leaves. She could easily have killed like all of them as they stood when Aegon was getting coronated. But then she decided to then just leave. And I think
why?
And I think another key scene was like when Clubfoot went to see Alicent and then was talking to her about the spy network that had been set in place that her father was using. And I think it's still the same spy network that Varys then uses later on.
Well, yeah, because this Clubfoot, he's the Lord Confessor. I assume that's like the title of like the Master of Whispers before it became the Master of Whispers. Mm-hmm. I don't hear of any Lord Confessor in the Game of Thrones series. Yeah. Also, damn, that foot fetish.
Oh my days.
Wow. You know, I was kind of not surprised to see it, 'cause I was like, oh, Game of Thrones always put weird stuff in.
Yeah,
like,
they do.
There needs to be a character with a foot fetish. I felt like it was overdue in a weird way. Good enough.
And I think the fact that it also then gets me thinking, like, who actually set up the spy network? Was it like when Aegon the Conqueror arrived, did he set it up, or was it one of his descendants who set up this spy network? And it's kind of weird that Daemon's second wife, which we don't know what their relationship is either, because like, is she
Rhaenyra or
no, because remember his second wife, Lady Misery, is his second wife, and like, is she doing it separate from Daemon? Is she doing it on his behalf? Is she like a jilted lover and angry at Daemon? Like, because it kind of made it seem like in the last episode that she was involved in poisoning the king, and that's why he kind of like died.
Yeah, you know what? I wonder if they'll ever explain that. Or it'll be a thing for later series, like kind of like who poisoned Joffrey. It kind of was left till the very last series. You know? Yeah, because Lady Misery is definitely getting her fingers involved, but she, I was didn't really like her in the previous episodes, but in this one, she really came into her own. She was like, what's given to you, the power you have. She's saying this to Otto Hightower when they're negotiating. The power you have, don't forget that it comes from the people. And then she gives Aegon's position away.
Location.
Even though it's quite obvious, like in the holy sept under the table. Wow, what a great hiding spot. She's cool. I love the way she pronounces things as well. Like, just very specific. Cool character. I'd be keen to see more of her coming up. And
unless she was killed when Lord Clubfoot attacks their spy network.
Yeah, what was that fire about?
Because I think, at the end of episode 8, they show that building, and then they show her talking about, to that woman, was the deed done? They then showed the building again, and then the king then dies. Building. So I think that's like her base. But the question is, was she there when it caught fire?
I can't say, because I read the books. Damn it, you tempt me every time.
and I think,
damn.
Like, to know, is she doing it on Daemon's behalf, or is she doing it against Daemon? Like, is she angry that he left her and then went off to marry his third wife and then his fourth wife, and then completely left her?
Who was his third wife?
His third wife was the daughter of Corlys Velaryon. That was his third wife.
Oh, crap. And then, oh my God.
Yeah, I know. You start losing track of how many times he's been married.
That's so rude of me to forget.
Yeah. And then you've got Rhaenyra as his fourth wife. And I think, is she doing it in spite of him? To spite him? Is she doing it to help him? Or is she just doing it as her own type of thing. She doesn't care about Daemon anymore. She has her own thing that she's got, and now that's what she's doing.
I think it's more that she maybe never really cared. Because remember, her and Daemon had that conversation when he's really hungover after he tried to seduce Rhaenyra but couldn't get it up because he's Lord of the Viagra. She comes in, he's really hungover in bed, and they're having a conversation about something. It's like she says, like, I'm with you not for danger. I don't want danger because he's causing all this trouble. I'm with you for liberation, because she's from her background. She's nicknamed Lady Misery because, how can I describe it without giving away something in the books? Because her backstory is that she was a slave from Lys, like one of the islands just south of Essos, the continent to the east of Westeros. Well,
okay.
Funny that. She was born as a slave. She was sold into like pleasure houses as like a prostitute and stuff, and has managed to work her way up to this position of like unofficial power, because you see how she runs like that the whorehouse and stuff, but she's got all this spy networks. There's so much more to her than just the mistress of a whorehouse. She's kind of like, and maybe how Littlefinger got into his position. He started out small, although Littlefinger didn't start off as a sex slave. So that's the difference. She's got a cool backstory. And you'll find out why. Well, I don't know that she's called Lady Misery yet in a TV show. I don't know.
I think they said something about the something worm.
The white worm.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I don't think they call it that in the books. Maybe they've changed it just so it doesn't give it away. But yeah, she's one to look out for. Who else was cool? Oh yeah, Lord Beesbury. At the small council talk where they're all plotting, and like Alicent's like, "What? You guys had a plan along?" And then Beesbury's the only one that stands up, like, "This is treason!" And then just Kristen Cole just comes and smacks his head. I mean, in all fairness to Kristen Cole,
he wasn't trying to kill him. He was just trying to push him back down in his chair.
I'm going to Kristen's side piece has been has killed people intentionally before, but like, come on, that was an accident. Like, I got to give it to you, Kristen. That was a bad accident. It could happen to anyone. Yeah, it was kind of comical, especially because that guy who plays Lord Beesbury was the dad in Fleabag. It's just so sad. Yeah. He's such a cute character to see die.
And the fact that like they were like, I think she said that no one's allowed. Yeah, Otto Hightower said no one's allowed to leave. So literally, you've got a dead body sitting next to you in a council, and you're like, am I supposed to look at it or not look at it?
Yeah, exactly. Just poke it. Is anyone going to clean that up?
And I think another thing is that concerning like the spiral network and also the white worm. I think they said something about, because I know that worms produce silk. So maybe that's a link there. Maybe that's where she gets part of her name from. Because like
Streets of Silk.
And then like also they said something like, they first said like thread, and then they said webs. And then it then leads to like the spider with Varys. So maybe he picks up when he then, because I think the story is that, Mad King Aerys basically gets paranoid and then asks for, I've forgotten who's his name. You know the guy who gives Daenerys the eggs as a present?
Syrio, the guy from Pentos.
Syrio Forel, I believe his name is.
Yeah, maybe.
I think, I believe, if I'm getting it right, Aegon asks him to send someone who could be like a spy master, because he's like, as you know, that Aegon Aerys was paranoid,
right,
and was really, really paranoid. So then he brought in Varys to then basically manage his spy network and be his spy. And then the one thing that I always found weird is that no matter who the king was, like, they allowed him to stay in his position.
Lord Varys.
Yeah, because like Robert came in and Robert was like, all right, if you serve Aerys as well as you served me, then you can stay in. He was also there for the reign of Joffrey as well. But then he got ousted when Joffrey died. And this is like, I think, kind of weird where it diverges from the books, is that in the books, where the last time I read of him is that he's the one who kills Tywin Lannister's brother. It's not Cersei.
Yeah, he organized it.
He organizes it.
Or something, yeah. That's a cool scene.
And he's the one who basically came up with the plot, which is also very, very different from the TV show. He comes up with a plan to switch the babies so that what's his name?
Oh yeah, there's another Targaryen.
Yeah, I would have been nice if they brought them into the TV series, but they didn't.
Well, yeah, they just called Jon Snow Aegon. So it'd be keen to see when George R. R. Martin does finish writing those books, how he's gonna, is Jon Snow actually going to be Aegon Targaryen? Because Aegon Targaryen is actually that other Targaryen that's alive in the book. So that'd be a weird one.
Yeah, and the fact that he actually, at the end of the last book, he's actually invaded. So you know how in the end of like season 8 is Daenerys invading and taking over Dragonstone and invading Westeros. At the end of the books, it's actually Aegon who's actually invading Westeros. He's brought in a army of sellswords. He's brought archers from the Summer Isles.
I swear he brought elephants.
Yeah, I think elephant as well. Ooh. And then he invades, and I think like Daenerys is at the end of those books is still in Essos.
Yeah,
as well.
She's still in like, I think she's lost.
She's lost. Yeah,
not Valyrian. Sorry, Drogon flies away with her. I think she's still lost.
Yeah,
like Dothraki appear. And that's it. That's where that story ends.
And like people are banging on about, like, keep on reading. Oh, what if they could just once he's written the books, redo the whole scene, redo the books, basically redo the last 2 seasons based off the books.
I would love that.
But I think like the actors are like, I think Emilia Clarke, I think she's like, no. I think also some of the actors are like, they don't want anything to do with Game of Thrones anymore.
Wait till they find out that they'll make tons of money, because they.
True.
You know, if they really want the OG actors back, they'll pay any money, these studios. So think about the money, especially in these tough economic times, you know, especially in the UK. Holy cow. Yeah. I don't know, it's interesting. Oh, we've definitely digressed a bit there.
At least this time we've kept it in the Game of Thrones universe.
Well, we're done with Rings of Power now, because that's overdone with. Let's talk about that later. I don't want to talk about Rings of Power, because, you know, season finale and all. And guess who Sauron is? But we'll leave that for later. So going back to what we should be talking about, not the state of the British economy, but House of the Dragon. Who do we think was coolest in this episode?
I'd have to say Alicent's second son. I think he was Aemon was the coolest in this episode. I think the fact that he's like, you kind of like see with him, like he wants to be king, and literally he's like, he has no qualms without saying it out loud.
Yeah, but you know when so they find Aegon, and then the one of the twins is fighting Sir Side Piece, and then Aemon like grabs Aegon, pins him down, and Aegon's like, I'm not fit to rule. I don't want to be king. I'm not ready.
Yeah. And
Aemon literally says, I share your opinion, brother, but I have to take you with me. And then Aegon's like, then just let me go. Let me find a ship. I'll disappear. I'll go. And
then you can be. And he was thinking about it before.
He was ready.
He was thinking about it. Then Kristen Cole then arrives, and then they take him to the Queen.
Because just to think like that, I feel like I don't know Aemon that well. He could turn out to be a bit of a psycho because he's got some weird fucking. I look forward to beeping that out tomorrow. You wonder, would he make a better king? Because he seems a bit dodge, but he seems like kind of cool in his own way. But yeah, he hasn't yet done anything psychotic or weird. Correct me if I'm wrong. He just seems like a cool character. He is Daemon. Yeah. Exactly. And just like Daemon, he actually wants to be king, and he thinks his brother's unfit to be king. Yeah. They really are. Like, you can see why George R. R. Martin made them anagrams, is that? Yeah, anagrams of each other. Daemon, move the D all the way to the end, you've got Aemon. And it's really cool. It'll be keen to see, well, actually I'll be quiet because that's about to be a spoiler. just to let you know, that's a close call. Yeah, what else really stuck with me in this episode? Rhaenys, like the queen that never was, she was like really cool in this. Like, especially when like Alicent confronts her, like she gets locked in her room, confronts her, and Alicent tries to persuade her. And, you know, it almost does it. And Rhaenys like, you seem like you'd be a good queen, but you're in service to these men. Yeah. You know? And Rhaenys is like fully on like Rhaenyra's like side of like, let's have a cute queen now. Like Rhaenys is on her side. Like, even though the strong boys, the boys of Rhaenyra and Laenor Velaryon, who's still alive. she doesn't care. She wants to see a queen on the throne.
Yeah.
And that is really cool.
And I think it also ties in that also her grandchildren are also married into Rhaenyra's family.
That's true.
And I think that is, another thing that plays a big deal, because if she switches sides,
they die.
They will die. There's no qualms about it. Daemon, and I think even Rhaenyra would threaten to have them executed. And they're her only family left. Like her husband, her son, her daughter, her brother-in-law. Unless you're counting, maybe, I think her brother-in-law has kids, but you don't see them, because I think they were there at the battle when they were fighting. Because I think...
Who's her brother-in-law?
Corus Valerian's brother.
Vaemond?
Yeah. I think he has children, because, I think some of them were there when they were fighting Crabfeeder.
Yeah. So, I think there was one, maybe.
Yeah, but I think she knows that she's tied to Rhaenyra because of her two granddaughters are literally with her.
Well, yeah, because you got to wonder how dirty... can people get? Like when you play the Game of Thrones, you win and you die. Like you have to play dirty, and to be honest, Rhaenyra doesn't. Well, has Rhaenyra played dirty, or she's been lying a bit? That is a vile accusation. Started that she's married her uncle.
Yeah.
It looked like she got her husband Laenor killed, but actually he's free. So really, that was a good move. That she actually seems nice in that way, but she's willing to try dirty tricks. But who will get dirty? Because Alicent actually isn't really playing dirty, is she?
Yeah.
Apart from stabbing Rhaenyra in front of her family.
But the thing is, I think it's. I wouldn't say it's. I'd say it's violent, but not dirty. Because dirty is kind of cheating behind your back.
Yeah.
But then that was in front of everybody. So I would say.
So what, Rhaenyra did?
No. Alicent, when she stabbed Rhaenyra, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was dirty tactics, because it was up front, in her face, and everyone was watching. So if she stabbed her and hid her face or sent someone to stab her, then I would say that would be acting dirty. Yeah. And I think her father is trying to get her to play dirty, because he understands that the rules, as you said, of Game of Thrones, you either win or you die.
Exactly.
And he understands the fact that he doesn't know Rhaenyra. He probably thinks that he understands that Rhaenyra might not want to kill his grandchildren and his daughter, but understands that if you just read the history books, that to solidify a reign, majority of the times, kings or queens will kill their cousins, their uncles.
Are you giving King Charles some hints? Are we going to hear some more crazy?
But lucky for King Charles is there's no dissension. It's the Queen said he's going to be the next in line for the throne. Everyone was hooray! Here we go.
Before she died, she whispered in Prince Harry's ear, Your son should be king, or you should be king. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And that scene at the end. Oh, and actually, something we do need to pick out is Baela, is it? Aegon's brother. Sorry, Aegon's sister. He's obviously married to. No, Alicent's daughter.
Yeah.
She's definitely a dreamer, because she's
the beast from below. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. The beast beneath the boards, and that turns out to be Princess Rhaenys and her dragon Meleys. On point again. She is seeing stuff that's in the future. She's a dreamer, just like the girl that prophesied the doom of old Valyria, and then that's why the Targaryens moved to Westeros. That was a cool scene. Why did she not do it? Why did she not kill Alicent and everyone? She could have ended it there. What are your thoughts?
I think the reason why she didn't is because she's not a bad person, and I think she understands and I think what really helped was Alicent's talk with her.
Yeah.
Alicent could have easily just got her killed. If we really want to put it down to it, Alicent could have basically say that she's a threat. She's basically technically aligned to Rhaenyra, because she's marrying her two grandchildren off to Rhaenyra's two sons. So technically she's picked a side already. And she picked a side, remember, with Corus Valerian, and not Corus Valerian, his brother, when they went to then see the king about his claim. So she's already picked a side. She could have easily just Alicent could have easily had her killed, or potentially could have just kept her locked away and not told her anything. And I think the conversation that she had with her, I think, really helped, because then she also sees that she's a mother trying to do the best for her children. It's not a power grab. It's not a move to make herself the most powerful woman, not like what Cersei did, the most powerful person in Westeros. It's actually to secure the future of her children.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I guess she has an affinity with her, because Alicent had that conversation and she was like, yeah, you are truly a good king, but you will always be subjugated by men by doing this. And it's kind of true, because Alicent, Lord Clubfoot was literally jerking off watching her feet. She, in a way, has to do that to get that spy network and have him do it. It's really messed up.
It is.
Yeah, and I also was thinking, if she did burn all of that family, well, could they legitimately say they were the rulers if they basically what looks like an assassination move?
True.
Well, she would have got everyone. Otto Hightower.
Yeah.
Essentially, all of that branch of Targaryen. She could have ended it all.
No, I think she would have maybe even antagonized it more, because then an attack in the Sept, so she'd lose the support of the Seven. Also, the Hightowers would go to war. Then also all the families tied in to Alicent's side, so the Green Council would also be against her as well. And if she then did that, I don't think Rhaenyra would have taken her in. Daemon would have been like, "Oh, do you see what she?"
You're my kind of person.
Daemon would be like, "Thank goodness for her." But I think Rhaenyra, based on the character that we've seen from her, I think she would be like, "That's a step too far."
Maybe, yeah. She doesn't seem like someone who would, by any means get power. Because, she's been living her life as the queen and never was.
And also, technically, there'd still be 2 Targaryens of her line, because I think her son has 2 children. The 2 children playing when she goes to look for her son when she goes to look for Aegon. So Alicent, when she goes to look for Aegon, she goes to see her daughter, and then there's 2 children playing, who I don't think were at the coronation. So technically, they'd still have people that they would put on the throne, and then they could have then rallied support and said, "Did you see what Queen Rhaenyra has done? She sent an assassin. How many people died in the fires that burnt the Holy Sept? The fact that she did an attack in a Sept as well. The Seven would basically use that to legitimize any action against her. Yeah, so it would have done potentially more bad than good.
I don't know. I felt like she should have just done it. That'd be cutting off the head of the snake, and everyone knew that Rhaenyra was going to be the heir to the throne. So many people took oaths. And also, that, speaking of which, that scene where, Otto has taken all these lords to the throne and was like, "You must pay homage to the new king, blah, blah." And then that guy who doesn't, is he a Stark? I'm pretty sure we saw him. Was that a Stark? Was it the same guy? Because remember in the first episode, you hear a Stark pledging allegiance to Rhaenyra.
I don't think it could be, just because the ramifications of it. Also,
well, it might not be the Lord of Winterfell, because it takes.
Yeah, would take too long. So I don't think it would have been a Stark. So I think it was a key Lord, but I think a Stark wouldn't even be there. And especially for those who haven't read the books, especially who the Starks align themselves to, I think it'll be unlikely that he was a Stark. Because also, if they then ended up killing him, they would then basically alienate themselves and make an enemy of one of the most powerful houses houses that has the most loyal bannermen in all of Westeros.
Yeah, to be fair, it wasn't a Stark. I mean, just because I'm just looking at, in the first episode of Stark, pledges fealty, but some other guy, he looks totally different. I thought these 2 old white men. But you can usually tell the Starks, they always have those wolf fur pelts around their shoulders, and he didn't. He might have just been an unnamed lord. He was a character from Peep Show, though, the actor, so that's a shout out to Peep Show there. But yeah, that was cool. And then there was a woman there as well, who I assume was because in the books they talk about how, because there's been so many plagues and so many wars, although not at this point, the previous king saw over a lot of peace, but before that with Maegor because so many men had died and because there'd been so many plagues as well, that ladies were actually taking over his houses. So instead of a lord, they'd have a lady of Blackwood, blah, blah.
Similar to Damon's first wife. Because she was, and then when she died, because they were married, he then was able to then have a claim on her house and her lands, and was able to take it.
Yeah, exactly. So true. And so in this case, similar example with the woman who's like, I'm not an oath breaker, blah, blah. And I think they just fully killed her there and then, didn't they?
They took them away. I think they didn't kill them. I think they threw them in the dungeon. But I think because the other guy tried to run, I think that was his issue, was that he tried to run and then he lied. And I think one of the first things he lied and said that, and he swore an oath as well. So not only did he lie, he swore an oath to.
They'll kill him.
So they've basically, he's done three things basically. So basically legitimizing the reason to kill him. Oh, he lied to us. He broke his oath and tried to escape and alert Rhaenyra. So he's definitely getting killed. While the others made their intentions clear. So most likely they just threw them in the dungeons. And it's weird because I do remember reading up on history when with the whole Genghis Khan, when he died, what happens is that in their culture, all of the people of the royal family, so his sons and his grandsons, would then convene in one area and then elect a king. So basically it was the first person who could go back to the capital and could sit there and basically call the meeting would then be one of the major ones who would then be the major players. And he could kind of see it here, the disadvantage of Rhaenyra of going back to Dragonstone.
Controlling the flow of information.
Is the king is there. If she stayed in Dragonstone, this episode would be if she stayed in King's Landing, this episode would be completely different. Literally, I think Alicent would have had to have taken her children and sneaking out at night and probably stolen the crown, and all her supporters would have had to just sneak away at night. Because you can't really do a coup the way they did if Rhaenyra is right there. And I think that is kind of the disadvantage of not, as you said, the flow of information.
Yeah, exactly. It was lucky that Rhaenyra wasn't there. Yeah, it's true. And it, as you say, it happens in a lot of absolute monarchies, especially historically as well. The king dies, it's kept all hush-hush, and then people plot and could make quick moves. Such as the Green Council.
And it's weird because then, I remember watching this video oversimplified, because he's really good at making history but simplifying it. You hear in China when the emperor dies, and because he had loads of concubines, you would have situations where different factions had picked different sons. So once an emperor had died, you'd have maybe 4 or 5 of his children being killed, and then the one who luckily was able to
get a bastard child.
No, because basically they were concubines. All of them were basically legitimate.
Oh, like a royal concubine.
Yeah. So then the issue you had was then similar to what's happening now. Factions within his court would then pick a child that they would support, who they would then believe would then help with their own aims and their actions, which you can kind of see in with House of the Dragon.
That's crazy. With people like Genghis Khan and with the Mongolians, he had 100. I think he had over 200 concubines, wives and stuff. So 15 million people today can trace their genetic lineage to Genghis Khan precisely. Sorry, what were we going to say about Game of Thrones?
And you can kind of see it now that the people who see that how they can benefit from Aegon being on the throne have literally plotted behind their backs. And as you said before, that one of the key things they're showing throughout the whole episode, the whole season, in fact, is that it's people who are pushing Rhaenyra and Alicent to fight. It's it's Otto Hightower, it's Daemon, it's the council, it's the general environment of that they couldn't see that a woman should be allowed to rule. And it's I think what's different from the books is that the king himself was a wedge between them that was holding everything together.
Yeah.
But in the books, it's more
he's dead, he's gone.
He's based in the books, he's more he's pretty much useless, and basically after naming Rhaenyra as his heir, basically kind of then reneges on it and then says, oh, maybe he then doesn't clarify, unlike in the TV series, he doesn't clarify who actually is his heir once he has children with Alicent. But here in the TV show, it's like, no, it's going to be Rhaenyra, and that's why I was thinking to myself, like, how could they then justify that Aegon should be king if he keeps on banging out and saying that Rhaenyra should be queen, Rhaenyra should be queen.
Yeah.
So I think the way that they did it is quite clever, but then it's like harder to like. I think like in the books it was like clear cut that okay, then we now understand why both sides are fighting for the crown, because he wasn't honest and didn't basically say that Rhaenyra is going to be queen.
Yeah, well,
but in the TV series, it's like, who's actually going to believe Alicent? Like, literally.
I know, and when they're saying that as well, people are like, that's a load of crap. Like, and like, believing that.
And like, if like, I think what they could have done was like maybe something like a major event happened where she was shamed, and then the king then says in court openly and questions if he in public, then that would make more sense. But like how are people actually going to believe like Alicent? Like if it was somebody else, like if it's someone who, if it was like the Maester who said it, or if it was in like in a group of people, you could say, okay, the Maester was there, the Hand of the King was there, the mad person in charge of the King's Justice, maybe the head of the King's Guard was there, so they all heard. But like, who from the opposing side is really going to believe like Alicent? Like the only people who are going to believe Alicent are those who just want to profit from her and her children being in charge of the Westeros.
Sure.
Yeah,
said that, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. I'm with you anyway. Sure, you say what you want to say. Yeah, like typical patronizing.
Yeah. Like Alicent, we really do believe you, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And to be honest, imagine if she wins. She will slink back in her role. You know, the men will take over. She is a means to an end.
Yeah.
And that's where Rhaenys has a point, that she is in service to the men. Because I was reading up about that foot fetish scene with Larry's a clubfoot and her. And for him, that's like an assertion of power over her, you know, taking her dignity like that. She is still very much, she is reliant on the men. She says, she tries to persuade Princess Rhaenys, like, let's do this for the good of the realm. As women, we can softly persuade the men not to, but I just don't think she... Yeah. Maybe she could, but I don't know. I doubt it. I mean, she did manage to get Aegon and then dictate the terms to her father.
Yeah.
And then her father was just like, you know, sometimes you look like your mum in a certain light. And I was like, is this creepy or is he just being sexist? I don't know. Maybe
I think maybe he might be giving her a compliment, I think. Like at times, maybe his wife would stand up to him and basically tell him that this is how we're going to do it. And maybe that also reminds him of, the way she's now finally got a backbone is kind of something that his wife would argue with him about. And then maybe she looks like his wife when she argues with him. And I also was thinking, like, what was he going to do with Aegon? Would he, I think, maybe rough him up and basically tell him that this is how it's going to be, this is how...
He's caught drunk.
So basically similar to what Tywin Lannister did with Joffrey, when he then became the Hand of the King and basically was ruling in Joffrey's stead.
Yeah, like...
So I think maybe that's what Otto Hightower basically wanted to do.
Yeah, a puppet, that's true. There's always a stronger... Yeah, because Otto Hightower has like somewhat Tywin Lannister vibes, although he doesn't come across as quite like
heartless.
Heartless, the military leader. Well, he is kind of a bit heartless. He's got his daughter wears her mum's dress and basically seduce the king. But not as heartless as say Tywin, which just murdered tons of people.
And also based on the chart that we looked at, I think you would say that Tywin was like lawfully evil, and I think based on that. You know, when people keep on... I was in the books when they were saying, the person who is actually the actual spitting image, like the descendant of, like, Tywin, I think the woman in the book said it was Tyrion. But then I think the TV shows, I'm not sure, or it's in the book, Cersei says that she is actually the spitting image of Tywin, who's carried on, like, his legacy. And especially the fact that she's also lawfully evil. If out of all his children...
I mean, children... Well, I suppose all her children are dead in it when she becomes empress, but... Oh, Empress, sorry.
Queen.
Yeah, Empress.
And I think out of all his children, the closest one to him is actually Cersei. If you think about it, like, Tyrion has the brain, but he isn't as malicious or evil. Jaime isn't evil, but he uses
he was a neutral.
Yeah.
So I think he was. That's it.
Yeah, chaotic. I think chaotic evil. No, chaotic neutral.
Chaotic neutral. Yeah.
And I think in deep down he has like a good heart, but then doesn't want people to know. Like, partly the fact that he didn't tell anybody that the reason he killed Mad King Aerys was to stop, like, the whole of the King's Landing being destroyed and burnt by wildfire. He doesn't tell anyone that. He keeps it to himself. And, like, the fact that he constantly, because he promised, like, Catelyn Stark that he would find her daughters and keep them safe, is that he keeps on that path until, like, a distraction comes in, but he's actually adamant. And you could see that he actually saw that it was actually, you could actually see that he saw it was an important duty for him to do.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the old what's it called? The character arc, you know, how they always start off being an absolute a-hole and then they make just a really good comeback. I'm trying to think of a series where that's happened.
People say that Loki was like that.
Yeah, I think Loki is having a bit of a character arc, especially with, you know, how he, just before how he died in the Marvel Universe. Spoilers, whatever, I don't care, it's Marvel.
And then, like, even in the TV series as well, like, the last episode, like, I rewatched the last episode, and the fact he's like to Sylvie, like, I don't want...
you mean, she is Loki.
Yeah. The fact he's like, I don't want to be in charge. All I want is to know that you're okay. And I think everyone was like, wow, Loki's really changed, like... And the fact that he stood in the way between her sword and the sword hitting the He Who Remains, who we kind of like know is now Kang. Like, he literally put his life on the line to save Kang for the greater good. And I think that's kind of like the arc that Jaime was on as well.
Yeah, but
then I think that's the issue because he all they're saying is his character that he loves his sister that much. That he will do things that he disagrees with, things that he doesn't like, just because he loves his sister. Unless they're saying that's his character flaw, that his love for his sister is the reason why he continues and then goes back to her. Because, like, even like the love, you can even see like the love he has for Tyrion as well. Like the fact that Cersei hates Tyrion to a degree that I don't think anyone has hated anyone within the Game of Thrones like TV series as much as she's hated her own brother Tyrion. Like the fact that she tricked herself into believing that Tyrion would kill her son, even though she must have known, like in the deepest, darkest bits of her mind, that no, Tyrion has never done anything malicious in his life, literally, until he was pushed to kill his father when he was almost going to die.
But she kind of blamed Tyrion for her mother's death, really.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's just, and the fact that it's nothing that he did himself. And I think potentially that Jaime would have been potentially redeemed, especially if like Cersei wasn't involved in the situation at all. But I think it's just his love for Cersei.
And also bad script writing in season 8 and rushing the script, yeah. I love that meme as well of like one of the writers, David Benhoff, like, we kind of forgot, and then there's like, we kind of forgot that Jon Snow did this, blah, blah, blah. And then they just put out everything. They did one for like, I saw it recently, it was such a good meme. I can't remember what it's for, but it was of like him... I can't remember. I'll have to pick out another time. But yeah, overall good episode. Let's talk about Rings of Power.
Yeah.
What did you think of the final episode of Rings of Power?
I would say it was really good. I would say, and like it was the shock reveal of like who Sauron was also really shocking as well.
I love the name people calling it on social media. What, Sour Brand? I was like, yeah.
And I think one thing that I found weird, and I think it's kind of nice, that like old videos of like, I've just been seeing it on YouTube, like old videos of like people telling the stories of like the different characters and the lore of Lord of the Rings of like starting to like pop up again, because I think a lot of people are seeing Rings of Power. They haven't read the books. So they want like someone to then tell them through like the history of Middle Earth, and also the history of the different like ages. Like one of the things that gets me about Lord of the Rings is like they're like the first age, the fourth age, the third age, and like there's so many things that happen within that universe.
Yeah, I was watching. I was on a coach back from Bristol the other day, and I was just so bored of reading. I was like, I just watched like a YouTube video that just showed the entire globe of an entire history of the Lord of the Rings universe. It was pretty cool. I feel like it's definitely a lot more high fantasy to it compared to Game of Thrones, but I'm definitely going to nerd out about that at some point. You know, it's a shame Rings of Power is a bit shorter than House of the Dragon, because like House of the Dragon started before Rings of Power, but yet there's how many episodes was in Rings of Power? What, 8?
I believe so. Yeah, they had it, and I think. Didn't they do like episode 1 and 2 together? And I think that's another reason why the season was shortened.
Oh yeah, they didn't do that with House of the Dragon. No, I swear they did that with House of the Dragon.
No, I think no, they did one episode and then one after the other. Yeah, right, I think also because they were like, you know how sometimes when you've got a brand new TV show, it shows on TV. They're like, oh, we will show you for the beginning of this TV show episode 1 and 2 together. And then they go on to like 3, then 4, then 5 and 6.
Because usually, the first few episodes are setting the scene. Like Andor, they showed 3, and I was like, wow, that's quite extreme. But it's because Andor's really, I actually really like Andor, but it's quite slow, And if you watch one of those 3 episodes by itself, it's the 3rd episode you finally see some action. It's all a lot of slow.
So maybe that's why they did it. That it was the first episode was actually, even for like Rings of Power, the first episode was quite slow. Because it was like trying to set the scene.
Yeah, and that's why I don't get all the haters. Because they were like, oh, first 2 episodes, and like their reviews were like pretty bad at them. I was like, well, is it actually bad, or is it just because like they're like boring, but it's really interesting? I was like, well, no, sorry, boring, but it was really beautiful to watch. It was definitely really beautiful to watch. But I wouldn't say it's boring. Like you got to set the scene, especially for such a fantasy universe as well.
Yeah,
people aren't even familiar what all these lands are, like Numenor. Actually, we didn't talk about it last time, but the episode of Mount Doom being founded.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really cool episode. Great battle. Oh, sorry, we did talk about it, but the episode after, where they're like, at the end it shows Mount Doom, and then it's just it's like Adar talking about, we need to name it, we'll name it something else, not the Southlands, and then it shows the image of Mount Doom, and then it just shows Southlands pop up in like some text, and then just in a really bad transition, it changes the font and says Mordor. I just thought that looked really tacky. Like, I've seen some memes where people have gone like on word art. Do you remember word art?
Yeah, I remember those times.
Word, like changing the fucking font to like Times New Roman orange, like you would in like a presentation when you're in primary school. Like, I thought that was a bit crap.
Yeah.
$400 million, and that's the best they could do.
Maybe that's when they were running out on the budgets. They're like, you know what, we need to do this as cheap as possible.
They get their kids to do it. Like my kid does some IT classes.
Talking about stuff like that, like I found online like films that have like things that people don't realize either weren't supposed to be in the film at the time, or blatant up like blunders.
Okay.
So, like, in the first Back to the Future film, the guitar Marty McFly is playing actually comes out, I think, 3 years after when the film was supposed to be.
Ah, okay.
And I think, the worst one I think I can remember was Gladiator.
Oh yeah, when the chariot falls over and you can see the gas
can. Yeah, and I think also in that same film, Troy, there's a plane flying in the air, and it gets captured by the camera. And Gandalf, like in Lord of the Rings, in one of the scenes, you can actually see his watch on his wrist if you actually look close enough, and it's just like.
And then in the House of the Dragon, there's a scene where Viserys, because of that leprosy, he's lost 2 of his fingers.
You said, yeah.
Yeah, but he was wearing a green, like they use green screens and stuff to like help edit stuff out. You can see he picks up a note from someone, but he's lost it. You see it earlier, and he's lost those 2 fingers. But he's wearing. You can see the green on his fingers. Like they've got to take that out. And then in Game of Thrones, remember the coffee cup incident as well?
Yeah.
There's a really good photo. All the cast of House of the Dragon are just off just in between filming, just having a laugh. They're all posing with the coffee cup, like just like ta-da! Good sense of humor they've got.
And another one that I saw was, I think it was The Philosopher's Stone, where this. I think it's that film where you've got the scene with Draco Malfoy where I think he's getting in an argument with Ron Weasley, and then you actually see in one of the mirrors a cameraman like with the camera.
No, really. That's not very magic.
And I think some of the issues is that the editing team sees it and they're like, how much is it going to cost us to bring everyone back in to refilm this?
Yeah.
Okay, then let's try and see. And I think people don't see it during the film. I think it's like after people have seen it multiple times, then they actually see. And then by that time...
Yeah, we watch it first time and we see these mistakes, then it's fine. I mean, I feel like that Fingers one I actually only saw... because of the internet, some
like I didn't see it at all.
Yeah, exactly. There's a super nerd out there who's rewatched the episode like 3 or 4 times, and I guess the editing crew, they must rewatch it. The editing crew must have picked that up when they had all the footage, but they were like, it's going to cost way too much to reshoot. If it's in every single shot they take, they're not going to reshoot it.
And they don't want to do what they did to Henry Cavill in the Justice League film when they tried to take off his mustache and then basically like used CGI to cover up his mustache on his mouth, and it just looked awful because like his top lip didn't move at all. So then they're probably thinking, yeah, we might as well just leave it in. It's only there for a few seconds.
I don't know. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this like CGI stuff with faces. Like, when they make a dead actor, CGI him in, like Princess Leia, or
Tarkin as well,
or in Tron Legacy as well. Their faces are expressions. They look like they've had too much plastic surgery, and their eyes just look a bit like weird. I'm glad they didn't do that in House of Dragon, apart from with Viserys and the eye thing, because I guess that's just too hard for. But they combined the makeup and
with CGI,
and it looked great. Like literally. Haven't had any criticisms from people online about the CGI in that case. And yeah, I guess what they do is they use really good makeup on the characters. That even before, like when Viserys, before he like loses his eye, when he's just looking old and crusty, like and watching kids play in the playground, like. But that's really good. They do that really well. Really good. Like,
even like the crab feeders like makeup as well is also done really well.
Yeah, that actually, I think there was a bit of CGI with that though.
Okay.
Because the way his helmet sits on his head as well, I think they did a bit of it, but it's so well because they combined the makeup and the CGI.
Yeah.
And people appreciate that more. Like the new Star Wars movies, they're trying to refrain from using CGI so much because that's what was bad about the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So they've gone back to like the original thing where they'd have like models and then picture it.
Yeah.
And I know that some of maybe the older like Marvel films, they had like, if you go to the end credits, like most people do to just see the end credit scene, they would have like special thanks to Lucasfilm and to LucasArts for the graphics. So I think like in the early Marvel films, they would use like the graphics from like Lucasfilm, but then I think like now with the TV series is like so much is going on, and then Lucasfilm have their own like TV series they need to work on that, as people have seen, like the graphics and the CGI teams within like Marvel are heavily stretched. And then you can kind of like see it in many of the different shows that are coming out and movies.
You saying to me actually that they had gone through a lot of burnout or something.
Yeah.
I mean, these superhero movies, there's one thing they've definitely got to be having at CGI, isn't it? So I wonder if it's more expensive in film production to have CGI or have. I guess it depends. If you're making like an alien, I guess it might be cheaper to actually just make a costume and stuff, whilst you can't use makeup and puppets for a space battle.
Yeah.
Although you could back in the day, like.
They did. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like.
And it still looked okay.
But I think I don't understand like with Marvel, like you had like some episodes, because I haven't really watched She-Hulk, but then you see like in some of the trailers that her CGI is nowhere near as good as like Rocket CGI. Like the CGI on Groot in Rocket is done like really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
So is it that they had a lot more time to do Rocket and also do Groot, and therefore now that they're made and they're ready to use, it's easy to then put them into different films? Or is it that they have to literally recreate it each time they have a film with Rocket and a film with Groot?
Maybe the former, what you said there, because once the model's made and they've got the equipment, easy. Because I wonder if the next series of Rings of Power will be cheaper because they've got all the costumes in line and stuff. Although, CGI is always going to have to be renewed. But in some cases they actually reuse old shots. Like if you watch Transformers, one of the Transformers movies, they actually reused a shot of a car, of someone landing on a car and it's smashing up the car bit from The Island, which is also a Michael Bay movie. They just did a Transformer landing on it. I was like, reduce, reuse, recycle. Like, imagine you went to cinema, you paid good money, and then you just did the same shot.
Well, people have been speaking to like the Hollywood and also the entertainment industry. How can you reduce your carbon footprint? Well, we can reuse old films and put the old shots and put them into new TV shows and films.
Exactly. You basically just be watching it. They should just do that Rings of Power, just Lord of the Rings thing. Like, actually, do you know what? Because a lot of the Lord of the Rings is just a helicopter or a drone flying over.
Yes, especially Fellowship of the Ring, like those mountain shots when they're traveling on the mountain. Yeah,
just reuse them. God, Jeff Bezos, you've spent too much on Rings of Power. Like, you should do some cost cutting,
and then just use an AI to then make it to 4K or to 8K, and then make it.
Exactly. And use the money you've saved to pay your workers properly. How about that?
Yeah, 100%.
So, bringing it back to Rings of Power. What do we think is going to happen in the next episode?
As I've seen the trailer, it seems like the actual Dance of Dragons, so the war between both sides, is going to kick off. Mm-hmm. And either they're going to... I think what's going to happen is that they're going to relay the message to Rhaenyra, who's basically going to get really pissed off and angry. And I believe Dragonstone is going to be then put under siege. And then it seems like everyone's then running for their dragons to basically make the fight. But then you then see that Aemon's dragon, which is the largest dragon in Westeros, and the largest dragon currently right now is probably
Rhaegar,
the trump card which they're going to use.
It may be the largest though, but it is very old. Like, this isn't even spoilers. This is just my theory, and what's kind of talked about in the books is, like, for example, Balerion. He dies a little bit before when House of the Dragon starts, and like towards the end, Balerion was not that rideable. He's very grumpy, and he'd gone through so many different riders, he didn't really care that much anymore. It'd be more likely to like burn you to pieces unless you were really good, and because he was so slow. So it might not necessarily be the best thing. They have Vhagar. I think it's, without leading any spoilers, I think. They're going to be pissed off at Rhaenys. Like, Rhaenyra will be like, why the hell did you not burn them alive? Like, you could have ended it all. And then I suppose Rhaenys might have like a heart-to-heart about like Alicent. And then Rhaenyra might be like, oh, maybe Alicent's not so bad after all. Maybe it's this council that's bad. Maybe. I feel like there's a bit of like old friendship there, possibly even romance, according to some of my gay friends. So maybe. Damn, come on, Alicent, Rhaenyra, let's make it happen.
Yeah, then maybe they might do something different from the books and maybe have like a period where before the war fully comes into fruition, that they try and have like a mediation period.
Maybe.
And I think
family therapy, maybe. They're like, so what do you like? The therapist just saying that. So what do you think of your uncle, who's also your brother? And the therapist is like, wait, let me get it straight. Who's how does?
Wait. She's your stepmom and your best friend.
Yeah.
Wait a second. What?
Damn.
And wait a second. Your uncle's your husband?
Yeah. And you're like,
someone in current day, someone would have called child services, and this would have been all over us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Hopefully, this won't make incest okay in modern day society. Like, what the hell?
But one thing I did read an article which was by Eurogamer. And they were just saying that how this is, for those who have played like the Dragon Age series and also Dragon Age 2, they said that it kind of brings in the importance of like time jumps. So like the show isn't about like incest as much as people think it is. It's not about dragons as much as people think it is. It's more about like the drama between people, and also the jumps in time. And like the jumps in time also is a factor, and also has a setting on how the characters interact with each other and how the series works, which I think at first I was like, how are they going to do this? But it's actually starting to work, especially now you've got to the stage where there are going to be less jumps because things are starting.
No jumps of anything.
Yeah, but things are actually starting to then really hit off. Where as we've said, the Dance of Dragons is actually going to start.
That's a good point. Yeah, they were just basically like skipping through that kind of like Jewish families when you have Passover dinner. If you're not that religious, you just quickly skim through the religious books so you can get to the food. You know? We've got to the food now. We've got to the main course.
Yeah, like they really could have been like, oh, the king died. Oh, you know what? We'll put the king dying at the end of the season, so therefore that can then make an extra season and maybe reduce one of the time jumps. They could have done that, but I'm happy that they didn't. Like the time jump, the first time jump that we had, like when Alicent marries the king. And then there's a time jump when you then see her with her children. I think that was a nice time jump because we don't need to then continually go on because nothing really big happens in that period. We know that Daemon goes off to then fight the crab feeder, but we don't need like a constant day-to-day update on, okay, then we've gained this much ground. Okay, then now we've lost this much ground. But I think that time jump was good. I think the only thing I would say that's annoying is like, as we've always mentioned, the aging. Like, Kristen Cole hasn't aged. Maybe if you just join the Kingsguard, you don't age. I think maybe that's the key thing.
Yeah,
like,
and Daemon, I think he's aged a little bit, but he's still looking pretty good. Like,
so it's just like if you join the Kingsguard and you're a bit of an asshole, you don't age.
Yeah, and
because even Otto Hightower hasn't really aged either.
Yeah, I mean Otto Hightower should probably be dead by now. Like,
yeah, because like he was looking almost the same age as the king. Like he should be, the person, Lord Beesbury, he should have been...
Yeah, Lord Beesbury should have been dead, actually. They say he's like, 76? He's like, in Game of Thrones speak, they do it in old-fashioned English.
Yeah.
I'm 70 and 6, or 7 and 6 or something. But yeah, they killed him pretty quickly. You're like, you should be dead.
Literally, they're like, well, I think you've reached life expectancy, so you should be dead right now.
Yeah, exactly. That is the medieval life expectancy. There we go. Who lives to 76 in that sort of era?
I think I did raise it like, I think it was King Edward III. You can check it up. I think it was like the 1300s where he lived to his 70s. Like, and he's like, I think the third or fourth longest reigning monarch. And he reigned so long that I think two of his actual sons, like he died after two of his wives, or three of his wives, and then died after two of his sons. So he predated his two sons and three of his wives, because that's how long he lived for.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm definitely going to read that. I'm going to Wikipedia binge later, as well as a Lord of the Rings lore binge. I think we're going to call it a day there, folks, because the UK is in absolute anarchy at the moment. There's rioting going on outside our studio, pitchforks and torches and room of dragons as well. King Charles has mounted his dragon.
And now going to the Houses of Parliament to tell them what's what.
Yeah, finally burn it down.
And officially get rid of Prime Minister and now elect a hand to the King, which Sir Keir Starmer is looking for the job.
Oh yeah, I suppose it's her side piece. Labour has been a side piece for too long, for 12 years now.
Yeah.
now Lord Commander. Oh, wow. That was good. Josh, thank you again.
You're welcome.
As always, a special thanks to the master, the Lord of Spiders behind the scene, Jeffy, from the Pick Up the Mic Network, who is always there for us when we need him. To my audience, wow, I said my audience. To our audience, sorry.
Yep.
To our audience, I say, live long and prosper. Yeah, Star Trek reference, I know, that was too far. Please subscribe to our Patreon page in the link below. We need it. We like cash money, and you like cash money to pay. Does it cost to subscribe to our Patreon page?
No. Yes, yeah, it does, yeah.
Exactly. We like cash money here. We like cold hard cash. hey, and why not pay us in another currency instead of the pound sterling?
True.
It's not doing good at the moment. It certainly ain't.
I actually think that Patreon pays in dollars, which is very, very helpful at this period in time.
God, there you go. Everyone wins. Everyone wins. Exactly. And, more than happy for you to give us a like and leave a comment saying how much you love both of us deeply. Yeah, very deeply. And click the notification bell if you want to find out when the next episode is released. Well, that's all, folks. Enjoy the rest of your week. And, who knows if the UK will be here next week. We'll see.
See you, folks. And hopefully the UK will be here so we can do the final episode of the season.
That was the wrong button. Oops. Damn.